Hello everyone, my name is Chesline Miller, and this is going to be my testimony video. I'm going to be honest, I did not write anything for this, so this is all just going to be a stream of thoughts. So, excuse me ahead of time. I excuse myself ahead of time. Just in case, there's gonna be points where I think and say a lot, because this is kind of all not really planned out, but I just took the opportunity because I had the privacy now. But this video is gonna be about my testimony. I don't know if I said that before, but I'm really not good with speaking that well, so yeah, this is just gonna be raw, me and my testimony, and just unfiltered. So yes, I am going to start now. And excuse my glasses, sorry, my glasses are crooked, so if you're wondering, are they crooked? Yes they are. But yes, I will begin with just how I was before I came back to the Lord and went to church completely and just committed to my decision to stick with the Lord. But I grew up going to church, and I went to Catholic church. My mom is Catholic, and she's Filipino, so you know how Filipinos are. They are, especially when it comes to religion or Catholicism. I said that wrong, but I can't say it right now. But yes, she was a devout Catholic, or she still is. But yeah, I grew up in a Catholic church. My mom, she's a devout Catholic, and when I was in the church, I was very angry. When especially just my whole family life story, I grew up in a very tumultuous household, very hectic, very traumatizing, very toxic. So when you combine toxic family structures and just worldly family structures with Catholic religion, obviously there was a lot going on inside of me during that time where I had a lot going on at home. There's some abuse at home, or what I would consider abuse, because some of my family members would not consider it abuse, but discipline, and but for me it felt like abuse. So growing up in that way, and then growing up at church and hearing the word, I didn't really feel it. And a lot of the times when I was younger, I was afraid of God, because my mom would always talk about they would talk about hell and all that stuff and judgment during that time. And when I was a kid, I didn't fully understand that. I couldn't really conceptualize those big subjects yet. So when people told me about it, or when I heard about it myself, I was afraid and I was angry. For one, because I was God's talking about all this sin, I heard about the laws of Moses, and I'm but my family is not reflecting the goodness of what I felt was the goodness of God. And so at the time, when I heard that, I was afraid. I was geez, God is so harsh. And I was this is not for me. And so I spent a long time going in and out of religion. And there was a period of time where I just completely came out of it and just went into the world and went into astrology and looking up everything about astrology and tarot cards. But that's for like later. But right now is the beginning of the story, but it's just like, or my story. But yeah, I just remember in the past growing up and all of that is just dealing with toxic family dynamics, and that really I feel like that really made me depressed and felt really alone because you know, both of my parents grew up a specific way, and you know, they didn't really know. And of course, you know, you can't really like fully blame them for everything because your parents for everything, because you know, it's like they grew up a certain way too. But I just remember feeling, you know, like during the times when I was struggling with them, and I was just still at my house, I was still young. I really felt alone and like no one could understand me, and a lot of the things going on in my family was just like an isolating experience, and I like internalized a lot of the abuse and just beat myself up for it for a lot of it. But also it's just like I had a lot of pride because, you know, I felt like I could only deal with my issues by myself and when I'm alone. And I just felt like a lot of the times too, like because I was more sensitive and I wasn't so outspoken and loud. And, you know, I wouldn't say like loud in a negative way like that, because sometimes it's good to be loud, but it's just like, just wasn't very assertive in the way that I spoke. And a lot of my family members were very assertive. So, you know, when I spoke, you know, that was like my biggest scar in my, in like all of my trauma, is just not feeling heard and on top of feeling alone. So it's like, you know, of course, in more traditional family structures, sorry, that was a text message, but in more traditional family structures, you know, when you speak up about certain things or how you feel, it's considered like disrespect, when really for you, you're just trying to open up, trying to like say like, hey, like I just don't like that you're doing these things. But you know, to the older folks it translates to, oh, like you're talking back, you're disrespecting me. And that was really hard to get through, because it's like I just didn't, you know, I wanted love from my family members. I really was looking to be loved, and I really just didn't get that from my family. And so yeah, when I like talked to them, when I try to open up to them, they, well, not just like it was opening up, but when I did speak out about what was going on at home to them, you know, they didn't really, like, it didn't really come across very well. And so, you know, and especially with the way that they speak and they're assertive in the way that they talked, you know, it felt like, you know, a lot of the times what they said to me was that, you know, what I said wasn't smart. I'm not really good at rebuttals. Like, I'm just being disrespectful. It's all about what I want. It's never about anybody else. I was like this selfish person that just didn't know how to speak, and half of what I said when I said it to them wasn't intelligent enough. And sometimes it wasn't that I couldn't speak, but it was just that I didn't feel assertive in the way that I spoke. So when I spoke, it didn't come out right. A lot of the times when I spoke, it didn't come out right. So it's like they took advantage of the fact that I wasn't really assertive, and then used that against. I felt like they used that against me a lot. When people are very skilled in their language and how to utilize their words, I feel like they sometimes, if you're not speaking that well, they're gonna definitely like catch an ego about it and use it against you. So that happened a lot, and so that caused me to not, just not speak as much, and to internalize what they said, and it was just like, yeah, like I'm not smart. What I say is not intelligent. I can't speak up because it's like, if they see this when I speak, then it must be true. And so, I had a lot of issues with speaking up, and a lot of issues with just communicating and like telling people things, because it's like, what I say isn't worthy enough for people. It isn't smart enough. They're not going to listen. I'm selfish. So when I say things, it's just going to be about me. And and it's just no confidence. And so I just shelled up a lot, and I was just like, I'm gonna just do this thing alone. And that's why, and that led to me like a void, starting to like pop up in my life that I didn't notice at the time, because I was, for one, like young, dealing with all these issues, just like toxic family issues, dealing with abuse, and that led me to seek outside of religion. And eventually I just didn't want to go back to the Catholic Church, because for one, when I went there, I didn't really feel anything, when they spoke about God's word. Really, it's just like, I just didn't feel like I belonged there. I felt like it was just wrong. They're not really telling the truth. And who knows, some churches do think that they're, I'm pretty sure they're trying to, their impression of God is, well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but it's just some churches, some of them do teach the word, some of them don't. And you can tell by how you feel, like that gut feeling, or the Holy Spirit, because sometimes the Holy Spirit really does operate even when we're not fully, we're not fully putting our lives in God's hands. And so, yeah, what I did was I went outside of the Catholic Church. I started getting into tarot card readings. I started getting into learning about astrology, and I really liked those things because it told me about myself, and I felt it was really empowering for myself. But later on, it just ended up becoming something that I really depended on for a lot of things, especially romance, and I became very caught up in romance and my relationships. And I also, when I wasn't in that, I was with the guys, and having relationships with boys, and I had this like fantasy, and I was really indulging into that. And so I thought, if this doesn't fill my void, relationships with guys is gonna fill my void, and if that doesn't fill my void, it's something else. And I just spent a lot of time as a child, like, in pain and, bogged down by, like, you know, burdens and responsibilities that my family members placed on me. And it's not necessarily like material responsibilities, but it's like emotional things that, like, my parents were supposed to do on their own, or, not just simply not put on their children, but they did so anyways. And so I was caught up in all of that. And I have two sisters, so I have one older, one younger, and we all talked about these things, but it also led to a very complicated relationship between my sisters, because it's like, those toxic family structures where there's the golden child and the black sheep. And so there's just a lot going on, and I just felt like I couldn't trust my family. My family were the first people to truly break my heart. And when I got into relationships, that showed up. All the family issues that I had showed up in my relationships, and all the things that I did to cope with dealing with the trauma popped up in my relationships. And so I was like, so when my relationships failed, it also broke my heart. And I could say that in my previous relationship, my last ex, he I was already kind of like on the verge of just like breaking down. Like, I was really, like, I had just a trail of like me trying to push through, use my own strength, use my own, basically go about things my way, about everything, every void that I had that was supposed to be for God. I used everything out in the world, whether we go out to parties or like smoking and like relationships, again, like I said, and just art, anything. Like, art isn't really a bad thing, but I used to just put my heart and soul into all the wrong things, into all the voids, trying to fill the void in my life using everything in the world I possibly could. And I was just so like, I'm like quiet, and of course I don't I don't speak up that much, and I'm not as confident in what I say, but it's like, I am very headstrong in what I want, and I put all of my heart and soul into everything that I do, and I am the type of person to wear my heart on my sleeve. And that was a lot. Of course, nowadays it kind of like mellowed out, but but of course nowadays it kind of mellowed out. But when I was younger, it was definitely something that, that was like the first thing you could see in me. It was like, I am, a very headstrong girl that gets what she wants. Well, not necessarily gets what she wants, but very adamant about getting what she wants, and like puts in work and effort into like everything that I feel passionate about or that I love. And that's what I did, and that I put that energy in all the wrong things and all the voids that I had. And well, I'm saying all the voids, but really it's just one big void. But all the things I used to do to fill that void. But yeah, I just that's what I did. And it was I just remember like the feelings that I had during that time, because I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm telling my testimony, but it's like there's just so much more that goes into all of this, and so many details that I'm leaving out. But I'm just really just trying to get this this video out, so I can, get the point across and just obey the Lord. But yeah, like just I remember feeling isolated, alone, just a lot of pain. Like I was crying all the time because it's like my family doesn't love me. You know, my the people that I'm in relationships, they don't love me. Like who's gonna love me? And I just remember like all the time I wrote in my journals all the pain about, dealing with my family and just like trying to heal from all the toxic family dynamics, just the, you know, the bitterness, the resentment that I felt within my family, just like feeling like, they don't really care about me and they're really like, you know, I just felt the black sheep. I was like an outcast in my own family, and I was an outcast in the world because I was quiet. In the world, I was really quiet, and I was alone. I only had like a few friends, and the friends that I did have, we were all like a bunch of misfits, really, and we were not. We were also just outcasts in society, and people or those were the people that I were attracted to as friends. Like my in middle school, that's when I had a lot of friends, and they were all different. They all didn't necessarily belong to any particular group of people, like not like the popular groups of people, or like people in sports, like socially acceptable groups of social so like just socializing, like socially acceptable socializing, and yeah, I'm jumbling my words, but yeah, I those were my friends, just a bunch of weirdos, and yeah, and I just felt like alone in the world. I felt like it was just a lot of pain, I could not describe, a lot of pain that I couldn't put into words. I was dealing with a lot of things that I felt like I shouldn't be dealing with, and things that I just felt like, I just really need someone that is just there for me. And I felt like I never really got that. But of course, in this testimony, God is in it. And God has been definitely, He's definitely been planting seeds along the way. And to be honest, during those times when I had no one to talk to and nobody to confide in, nobody to give me comfort, I relied on God during those times, even when I was so angry at Him for, putting me in this family that I felt didn't care about me. I couldn't trust. I couldn't put my trust in. I couldn't believe in. And, in relationships as well. And it's just like, one by one, He was like planting seeds of, just encouragement, faith, and comfort when I was just all by myself. I couldn't rely on other people. I just felt like other people were the enemy. And I just couldn't see myself really getting out of it. And, all that time when I was younger, and I'm still young, but it's just like that time before, I felt really like I was under a cloud of darkness that I could not escape from. And that's all I really wanted. I was mentally tortured because I was depressed. I was anxious all the time. And I just could not relax because I was always either getting into arguments with my family, either something was happening in school. Just I couldn't be responsible. I couldn't be practical because I was dealing with a lot of heavy emotions, going through a lot of pain. And I really want to put an emphasis on this because I know people out there feel this too. And I know there's a lot of people out there that feel alone. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have family issues. But I just hope that through my testimony, you can relate to these things. And if you have not tried, if you're done trying everything else, at least try God, because he truly is the savior in this story. He saved me from a life of pain, really. And going back to what I said about my ex, I think a year ago we broke up, and he really kind of like kick-started me going completely into the Lord, and just really trying the Lord this time, because I just remember after breaking up with him and like dealing with all my family stuff, I just remember I was like, I just don't want to have hate in my heart anymore. I just don't want to feel this heaviness, this pain. Oops. Excuse me, but this pain, this heaviness. I don't want to be mentally tortured anymore. I just want to love. And I want to love without, I want to love people even when I'm hurt. And I remember saying that in my head. I'm just like crying out to the Lord, like, I'm tired of this. And I was just completely and utterly broken after I broke up with my ex. And so what happened after that was that I had a dream. Sounds like Martin Luther King, but just stick with me here. Yeah, like I've had a lot of crazy dreams before, and some of them I did have like angels. It really seemed like somebody was telling me something through my dreams, and I have written a lot of my dreams down, but it's just like, how people talk about like the prophetic dreams, and the thing is just I don't know how to interpret my own dreams, so it's like I'm not even really gonna get into that, but I do write them down. But it's just normally my dreams are very just wild. Sometimes there's a lot going on, very symbolic, just like weird images, very image driven though. But this dream was different. I felt like the Lord was really talking to me because I heard a voice, and it was kind of in that phase of where I was just about to wake up, and so you're still kind of like sleepy and drowsy, but you're still conscious. But I heard a voice, and it was like, be ready when Jesus calls you. And I was like, and that to me, like, I've always had a relationship with the Lord, and it's been a very tumultuous relationship. I've had like ups and downs. I was very angry at him, but I still depended on him. And so I still had all these issues, but when I heard that, I was really like shook to my core about that, because I was like, I've never had a dream where I heard words, and I never heard a message so direct and specific. And so I was like, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna like see what that's about. And so that ultimately inspired me, motivated me to get into a new church, because I was like, I'm done with the Catholic Church. I'm tired of feeling like empty inside when I go there, or like absolutely nothing, or like I'm not really hearing the truth. And so that motivated me to like really take God seriously. I bought a Bible way before all of this, but I've never read it. I never touched it. And so that, like, when I heard that, that's when I started to like get into reading it and touching it, and like, touching it, but getting into my word, really reading the word and trying to understand it, because that's the biggest reason why I didn't read the Bible was because I just felt like I couldn't understand it, and it was just so like, it just felt so complicated. And I was like, I really need like a Bible that's gonna make it simple for me so I can understand. But more like, if anything, you just gotta pray to God for understanding, and nowadays I do. But yeah, when I heard that voice in my dream, that motivated me to find a church, and a new church, a different church. And this was it was an interesting church because it was a church in my area, but typically how people enter this church is through testimony. And I think it's like Church of the Latter Rain in Vallejo. And usually they go by testimonies. But this church that I ended up going into, because I looked for a bunch of other churches too, and literally the day of Easter, like when my mom was telling me to like go to a church on Easter, I was like, you know what, I am gonna go to a church, but I'm not gonna go to the Catholic ones. And she was sending me a bunch of Catholic churches, so I was like, I'm just gonna go with the first thing that I see on my phone. And then what ended up happening was I found a church. So I went to that church, and then when I arrived on Easter, they're like, oh my goodness, you know, who are you? Obviously, they were very friendly, very different from the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church, I feel, is very, like, orderly. Not a lot of people, like, really speak to each other. I just remember I felt like I wanted to be in a church that felt like a community. And the Catholic Church was not that, because it felt so isolating, and like nobody really talked to each other, and you know, we all sang like, you know, very, I don't want to be disrespectful, but kind of very boring songs. And I'm like, I really don't like that. So I want to go to a church where like I could feel the songs. So that's what I did. And when I went there, they're like, who testified to you? And I'm like, nobody testified to me. And if it was anyone, it was the Lord. And that's what I told them on Easter. And they're like, the Lord brought you here. And I believe that the Lord chose a church for me, where it was a community, where it was a family. And, you know, he brought me to a church where I could feel the love of God. And I am still going to this church, and that's when I fully committed myself, when I decided, like, you know, Lord, I'm actually trusting you right now. I'm trusting your voice, and even though I'm really angry at you, and I still kind of have some bitterness and resentment towards you, I'm trusting you. And that was a big thing for me, to really like try and turn my life around. And for a year, I really just went into my word, and the Lord is still changing my life. Like, he saved me from all that pain and suffering. And the reason why I emphasize that so much in my testimony, because it's like he he kind of like washed all of that, all those painful things away. Like when I said, like, it felt like there was just a dark looming cloud over me, like that was completely gone after a certain period of time of just going to church, reading the Bible. Just like those two things really did, and like just praying to him really changed my life. Just those simple things. And when I went to that church, oh, sorry, my dog opened the door. But yes, when I went to that church, and really, God really changed my life, and he completely removed this mental jail that I was in for the longest time, and completely just took that away. And I'm still like, this is my testimony on like how the Lord helped me overcome that and like really gave me a family, because I was really praying for something like this, and I was really praying to be loved, for a husband, for all these things. And like I just feel like, I can't speak on these on all of the good things that he's done, because it's still like happening, so it's not necessarily like a full testimony yet for those specific areas in my life now. But what I can say is that the Lord really opened the doors for me, and I wanted to move out of my family's house for the longest time, and I finally moved out because he brought me to this community of people, and he really just changed my life in such a short period of time, because I've only been to this church for like a year, and I just feel like a huge weight has been lifted off of me, and the Lord really, like, he really did his thing. Like, he really changed my life. He really did the best for me, even when I was angry at him, and even when I turned away from him, and even in those times when I just wanted to rebel against him, he was still there for me. And he knew my needs, and he knew what I needed the most. And now I know that, like, all those years where I struggled and I suffered a lot, he's completely turned that around in such a short amount of time. And I hope that, in my testimony, I was able to say the most important things. I prayed before I said my testimony, but it's just like, I hope that, like, this reaches the right people. I hope that, what I said in my testimony really pulls people in to follow the Lord, because it's like, I didn't even believe in it. I didn't believe in God truly, but he still came after me. He still, he was still trying to get me to follow him. And that was like the biggest thing that, was crazy. And he took me to a place, he gave me a family, and now that I moved away, like, my family's doing a lot better. And it's just, there's so many good things happening in my life right now, where it's just like crazy, because it's like, this is the Lord, like, he's real. And I just hope that people who are on their brink, who are just completely broken, just, if they watch this video and they see how raw it is, and how, like, even someone like me who still has a lot of work to do is going out of her way to do this for the Lord, is because he truly changed my life, and he truly did a lot of things, and more each day, and putting my trust in him, and believing in him, and following his instructions, and trying to obey him. So it's like, I know it's gonna get better. And I got baptized. I went to a church, got rebaptized again, completely turned away from everything else. Well, not completely, but just turned away from a majority of things that were not good for me. And I gave it to the Lord, and he did everything. And I just hope, this video is kind of long, but I just hope that people who watch this video, it comes across the right people. I don't care how many views it gets. I just hope that my heart, you feel my heart in it, and that that maybe you should try God. Maybe you should try the Lord, because he saved my life, and he did a lot of things for me, a lot of great things for me, even when I was not good to him, and I'm still not that great to him. And so I just hope the Lord gets all the glory from my testimony, and that people turn to the Lord in my testimony. Thank you for watching this super long video. I know it's gonna reach the right people. So yes, thank you. All right, bye.